The reality is you have to keep reminding yourself that a lot of the negativity that comes your way is either short term or a minority. And so like even when things are bad, it's like, cool, I'll just fix it, I'll make it better, we'll improve the game, and it'll be fine, we'll get over it, you know? And so I think using Soju as an example, there were definitely times where like Soju was unhappy with the game, he made it clear with like Twitlongers, and rather than like let it get to us, it was like, cool, let's talk about this, let's be honest about this. And I think that bought a lot of trust with players. It's like, okay, cool, he's actually like legitimately listening and not just corporate BS, you know? And so I think it's just a lot of willpower and a lot of like, at the end of the day, the main goal is TFT be the best game it can be, and self-pity or loathing because a couple trolls on the internet are hostile doesn't accomplish that goal. So,
gotcha.
I mean, it's funny because, again, it all goes back to that goal of make TFT the best it can be, and so a lot of times it was just like, I'd volunteer to help with things, right? Like all the way back in set 3, the first time I cast anything, they were just like, we need somebody. I'm like, I'll help. I can try. And so it just kind of ballooned and ballooned. Everything starts small. Like even the streaming was my wife going, players would love to hear from you. And I went, sure, I'll stream a little bit.
Idea.
Yeah, it was my wife's idea. And I was like, okay, I'll try it a little bit. And then it ballooned and became a thing. And, you know, and so the nice thing is my wife is very supportive with that stuff. As long as I never miss a family thing, you know, I can do that. But I don't know. I like the game so much, and again, that goal of make TFT the best. It's like be a dev that's there for players, answer questions, and the other thing is it actually helps me do my job better, right? Because like I need to understand what players are feeling. I need to understand where that frustration comes from. And it's funny because I'll get like 30 Twitter DMs in a day, but it's like if 10 of them are all complaining about the same thing, this is a real issue, right? We got to really focus on this, right? Like even walking in here, someone came up to me and was like, dude, that team planner, we got to make that better. And I'm like, yes. And the team planner is a great example because now that it's kind of really cool to use, it comes up a lot. And so it's like, no, seriously, players really want this team planner versus just like one angry guy who's like, I didn't like this thing. And
I was very sad when it was bugged.
Yeah, right? When it just like stopped working mid-game.
I would open up my team planner in the mid-game and late game and I need it. And I'm like, wait a second, I can't mark these units. I'm going 8.
And so that helps us give a good understanding of what players want, which means we can prioritize the right features and stuff like that. This is a long answer. I'll try to keep it short, but the reality is, I learned a very different design philosophy and approach to work philosophy at Nintendo than you see at a lot of these other Western companies. It's very isolated from everything else. You know, they always talk about how in the video game industry, it's very network and who you know. I don't know anyone because I was always in that Nintendo. No, even at Riot, when I came to Riot, I'll be honest with you, I always felt kind of isolated because the way I made games was so different than everyone else and their approach. Like my first month at Riot, everyone was using all these big words and they were very educated and very smart. I'm like, what? Make game fun. And because at Nintendo, the thing that they focus on was like find a core, you know, whether it be Mario jumping or a puzzle to solve, and then build around that core. And like that was the philosophy I learned. And you know, with any project I did at Riot, it became, okay, what are we trying to do? Here's the core, build around that. A lot of the other stuff around it, like the levels, the stuff like that, that's the easy stuff. But finding that fun core is hard. But again, a lot of Western devs don't approach game dev that way, right? We're going to do this grand Hollywood-esque movie with choice, or here's my giant game design document that shows, like, that's not how you make games, at least at Nintendo. And so it's been very different. The other one I'll call out is that Nintendo was a very, like, hierarchy company where it was like, if your boss's boss's boss says something, you say, yes, sir. But you learn how to communicate with that, right? Like, so for example, even with like the most important people at Nintendo I ever talked to, it was like, you could still say, you asked me to do this, and I did. Here's this other idea. You can look at it. What do you think? And they might look at it and go, oh, the second one's even better. That's great. Or they might go, nope, I like this first one. And you go, okay, no problem, but at least I tried, you know, versus like arguing about it or having... Whereas, again, Western culture is very much like, it's interesting because a lot of the newer junior people try to prove that they're the smartest person in the room, and that just doesn't work. And so, you know, a lot of those differences have translated, and it's been it changed my approach to how I do things. So that's the short version.
No, that was great. I mean, so that story about that, I think there was a newer dev on your team that introduced that idea that kind of went
for the headliners.
Yeah, the headliner thing.
Yep.
Like, do you think so? That probably wouldn't have flown at Nintendo.
Well, no. So again, at least at Nintendo, as long as you present it once,
I see.
It's fine.
Uh-huh.
Though it really depends on who you're presenting it to, right? Like if you get a bad leader who's very stubborn, they're like, no. They could say like, headliner's fine, don't need it. Okay, it might not have worked. And again, even at Riot, like the first people that Liv showed that idea to were like, no, headliner's fine. Mm-hmm. And I could have made that same mistake. It would have been very easy to just be like, cool idea, but no, we've got it, and we've got other things to work on. It would have been easy. Mm-hmm. But, a lot of the times you have to really sanity check yourself and just like, okay, let me really think about this. This is one of my common tricks that I do that has worked for me very well. Let's say someone comes to you with a really dumb idea, okay? The first thing you should do is, let's assume you're just right.
Yeah.
Right? Here's what happens if we do that thing. And you can map it out, and it shows, okay, so if we do this thing, this happens, and then players will do this. And what it shows is you actually listened to their idea. You considered their idea.
Yeah.
And then you go, but now because of this result, instead, if we do this better idea, we can do this. And they go, oh, okay, that's cool. And I've actually had leaders above me at Riot who have heard that and like taken that on and used that strategy.
Wow. Okay.
Because again, it just shows that the person coming to you with the idea, you really did listen. So,
man, this is so cool.
So it's a bit of trial and error. You're gonna laugh, but most of my leadership experience comes from three things, I guess. Just generally being sort of like the leader of your friends group growing up.
Yeah.
So some natural tendencies. Boy Scouts. I was like, the senior patrol leader, I think is what they called it. And it was like you'd lead the other group and whatever.
Yeah.
And then World of Warcraft raiding.
That's where
I was a guild leader. Yeah, I met my wife there. But I was the guild leader. And so you're organizing, 25 people to accomplish these things.
Yeah.
Organizing DKP, yada, yada, yada. And like, the same leadership tactics apply, right? Like if someone joins a guild, they want to feel a part of it, they want to feel heard, but you got to accomplish the goal, so you can't listen to the bad idea. It's all very similar. So it's just a lot of that. But yeah, everyone often comes to me and they're like, oh, for design or leadership, do you have any recommendations? And it's like, no, not really.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean,
wow, join the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, it's just a lifetime of trial and error. Yeah, so it's interesting because my specialty is like putting it all together, the systems, the player empathy, stuff like that. But the part I'm not as good at, but the team is much better at, is the creativity, right? You look at like this music set and like the skin lines and like what is Jin gonna do and fill his bench with violins, right? Yeah. They're the ones who do all the creative stuff, right? The music video that the team worked on, that's all them. Like they're the much more creative people. And so anything that's like really super creative on TFT, that's not me. That's all of them. Yeah. They're the awesome people, and especially even on the design side or art side, they're the ones that are just like they have these wild ideas, and you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's neat, And even as we're looking towards future sets, it's just like, yeah, you guys got it, and it's like, oh, they pitched me this trait, and you're like, okay, So that's what they get to do, and it's really cool, and I think they always enjoy it. Yeah. My job is always just like, okay, how do I make this work in TFT? So,
gotcha.
Before the event started, I had said Setsuko. That was my it seems like he's got things under control. He went out after day 2 or day 1 heat 2.
Day 1, heat 2.
Now it's like it's anyone's game. I mean, we're seeing it down to top 32, and there's like. The other thing I did say, though, beforehand is, like, whoever wins this tournament, it's probably going to be some not, like, popular streamer,
but be totally down for that.
But still somebody who's been, like, challenger for 6 sets, you know? I just, Dobbs from Brazil, I just met him in the bathroom, and he made top 32. And he's been around the scene since, like, set 3. He's been, a competitor for a while. So it's not like it's going to be some, like, low-skill random master player, but it is going to be someone who's, like, kind of got this patch figured out, kind of got their stuff together. So like you said, it's kind of impossible to pick one, but it is cool to see. And like right now I'm looking at this top 32 and it's like they really got their stuff together. I need to see the full list of who made it though. But
I unfortunately don't, but it's gonna be sick.
Yeah.
Thank you more.